Hello, my name is Christine, aka Crafty Potential, and I'm on the design team for Arden Creative Studio. And in today's video, we're going to be celebrating the Send a Card to a Friend Day. So we're going to make a lovely friend-themed card, and we're playing around with some of the gorgeous 300 GSM, smooth on one side, linen texture on the other side, 12 by 12 cardstock from Arden in some beautiful red and pinky coloured tones. And we're going to play around with some complete sort of mixes of all of the different collections from Arden. We've got a little bit of Laurel Grove, we've got a few vintage makers, and we've also got one from the Hidden Creek as well. So stay tuned to see what kind of card we're going to create today. So for this card today, I've already done my die cutting ahead of time, and from the Filmstrip Essentials 01, I've cut one from Granite, which is this lighter grey, and one from Thunder, which is the darker grey colour. Then I have also cut 3 butterflies, this medium size here, from the Dawn cardstock, which is a lovely, gorgeous, deep reddy maroon kind of colour. And then I've also cut the bodies of the butterflies from Thunder as well, so it ties in that darker colour tone. And that is from the Winged Essentials die set. And then I have cut a few of the Squiggles, I love the name of this die set, from some Bubblegum, which is the lighter pink, and Fuchsia, which is the darker pink. And I have been using the 12 by 12, which is 300 GSM and has a beautiful linen texture on one side and is smooth on the other. And I have actually been cutting on the linen texture side just to give a subtle bit of texture onto the die cuts. Then I've also cut down a piece of cardstock of the A4, which is a slightly lighter weight and it's also smooth on both sides. I've just cut it down to my favourite size to use as my card panel. And then I'm thinking, as we put this card together, I want something subtle in the background, so I've picked out a couple of different stamp sets here. I've got the Letter Box Remnants 01 from the Hidden Creek collection, which I'm thinking some of this script in the background, maybe in some Hickory Smoke Distress Oxide, would go quite nicely with the granite coloured cardstock. Then I've picked out the Maker's Sentiment clusters because we've got Hello Friend in here. I'm sure there are plenty of other friend themed sentiments in the ephemera packs and bits and pieces as well from the different collections, but I remembered these beautiful little sentiment stamps here, and I think I'll probably use it in triplicate because I do really like that kind of idea of doing that. And then we may also use some of these beautiful scattery kind of elements or some of these gorgeous sentiment clusters to fill in the background as well, depending how we feel as we're putting the card together. So first of all, what we want to do is move our stamps to one side, bring in all of our die cuts and kind of see how we think this card is going to come together. Now I'm pretty sure for the film strip I'm going to want to shadow them just a little bit, so I've got the Granite one on the top and the Thunder one underneath just to give a little drop shadow and add a little bit of depth to that. So I'm just going to stick those two together just with a tiny drop shadow. And then once these are stuck together, we can begin trying to intertwine some of these beautiful squiggles. I really love this effect. I think I may have shown it on a previous video doing one of my sort of clustery kind of cards with lots of the ephemera pieces, but I really love the way these can like intertwine within this beautiful film strip. So I'm just going to kind of tuck elements behind, bring other ones in front, and kind of maybe pull that one round a little bit more and sort of tuck this into here to get a nice little twiddle going around our film strip here. And I was thinking the lighter pink, I did cut the lighter and the darker of all 3 of these squiggles, but I'm thinking the lighter pink for the largest squiggle and then using the darker pink for some of the smaller ones, possibly intertwining those as well and maybe wrapping this around, because we've got so many gorgeous bits and pieces within those squiggles. They just lend themselves so nicely for wrapping around the film strip kind of element. So I'm thinking the other one could maybe come in from the bottom. This one hasn't got as many pieces to kind of squiggle around, unless maybe we tuck that one under and bring it up and over. Maybe. Okay, so we've kind of got that as our squiggly intertwined kind of layout at the moment. We don't have to keep this as it is. I think maybe I might move this one depending on where I put my butterflies, but we'll have a look at where we want the butterflies to go. So first of all, I'm just going to quickly stick these bodies on. And now we've got the bodies and the wings attached together, we can kind of see where we think we might want to place them. And I decided to do the butterflies from my darkest colour that I had chosen, just so that they're kind of the most prominent element on the card, because I don't know, I often think of butterflies as friendship. I think they go really nicely for that kind of a theme. So maybe something like this. I did also cut out the kind of bubble element that goes with these butterflies from vellum for each of these as well, but I don't know if it's going to need it. I quite like the delicate nature of just having them without the bubble actually. Yeah, I think I prefer them without the bubble for this card. So I'm going to just keep them like this, and I think that's a rough kind of layout for them. And then we just need to build up a nice background to go with this, and then stamp out our sentiments as well. And I think I might include a few sequins, tucking them into different areas on this as well. I'm still not sure about this swirl here. I think maybe it needs to be a little bit more prominent. But I quite like the idea of having, I mean that one's not touching a swirl, but I think that's alright. It kind of looks like maybe it came off the end of this swirl and then is flying off in that direction. Okay, so we've got that kind of rough layout, and then we want to bring in our Hickory Smoke Distress Oxide and some of these gorgeous scripty pieces from the Letter Box Remnants. So I've taken the larger scripty element and I'm going to ink this up nicely, and I think we're going to do some generational inking. So if we do one full strength there, and then maybe overlap a second generation just to sort of vary the detail in the background, and then maybe repeat the same thing about there, and then do one more down here, and we could possibly have a little bit of faded coming off to the side there as well. And we can bring back in our clustered elements roughly. I know it's not stuck together, we can kind of bring it in to just sort of see. That looks much better now, it's kind of tying everything together. But do we want anything else in the background? I was kind of thinking of trying to stamp something pink or red to tie things together as well. So maybe one of these cluster sentiments in here would work nicely for this. I know I want to do Hello Friend as my sentiment, and I'm going to stamp that in black so it stands out really nicely. Maybe the Chasing Your Dreams one would be nice. Or actually, We Are Better Together. Together is my favourite. We Belong Together. That's quite nice for friends. Let's do that one. Then ink-wise, thinking maybe Kitsch Flamingo would go quite nicely with the lighter pink of the cardstock. So let's make sure the stamp's up the right way. I'm pretty sure that's up the right way. And then let's just add a little bit of pink into the background here as well. Yeah, I think that's just going to pull it together really nicely. And another bit down here definitely. And then we might see if we want a third piece anywhere else as well. Oh yeah, I think that works really well. I wasn't sure whether that was going to make it look too busy because we've got too much text, but no, I like that. That looks really good. Then maybe for the dark red, we could possibly bring in one of these gorgeous little like itty bitty cluster kind of pieces. I would say the splatter, but when you do that in red, it could be a little bit reminiscent of blood. So I think maybe this one, this larger one here, I'll just get an acrylic block for that, just almost fits on. There we go. And then I'm thinking maybe Lumberjack Plaid would be quite a nice red. It's not quite as dark as this, but I think Aged Mahogany, which is kind of one darker, is maybe a little bit too dark. So I'm thinking go for the slightly lighter option and make sure this is the right way. You can kind of tell with the little amphersands if they're the right way up. And then I think adding a little bit of it over here. Oh yeah, I like that. Yeah, it just adds a tiny bit of that deeper colour into the background, makes it look a little bit more intentional. You know, you've sort of tied everything in together. And maybe a tiny bit coming off the top up here. Sorry, I'm going out of screen there. Okay, so I think that is perfect for the background. Then let's take our Hello Friend. We'll move that out of the way a second, and I'm going to take another piece of bright white cardstock, the thinner A4 from Arden, and then I'm just going to stamp this 3 times. I may not use all 3 of them, I might just go for a single sentiment, but I really love the look of a triplicated sentiment, if you hadn't already noticed from some of the cards I've done. But yeah, I just really like the look sometimes, just having it in 3s. I mean, I've got 3 butterflies as well, so 3 sentiments may look a little bit overcrowded, but we may as well stamp them and cut them out ready, just in case we are going to use them. So all I'm going to do is trim these out with my scissors, just leaving a little white border around them. Okay, so now we've got all of these elements done, let's move our butterflies and our sentiments, and let's get these all adhered down into a good position, all of our swirls. I like how that's gone like that, actually. We could have this hanging off the bottom of the card, or we could just have it as a central piece on the card as well. I think maybe coming off the bottom would look quite nice, actually. Okay, and then, because we've already got these kind of linked in, we can just take our glue and put a little dollop underneath where some of them overlap, and then we can just hold them into place, and then they should stay nicely stuck down. So bring that one back a little bit and moved, and a little bit of glue under there, and then under here, and then when we stick the rest of the back of this down to attach it to the card, we can easily put little bits of glue on the rest of the swirls to help them stay down. But I think that's going to look pretty nice as a nice sort of starting point for where our butterflies are going to be coming off from. So now let's add glue to the back of this. You could definitely use 3D foam if you want to, but it will take a little bit of time because you've got all of these small holes in the film strip, but it's definitely possible if you do want to use some 3D foam to attach this. And we can just add that into position like so. I'm just going to have it just coming off the bottom of the card, then it kind of gives the illusion that it carries on, and then we can flip this over and trim off. There we go. Perfect. So we've now got the film strip coming off the end of the card. Then let's do a dry run with the butterflies again. So I do like the idea of one coming off the corner of the film strip. This one could be there because it kind of looks like that squiggle is coming straight out of that butterfly. And then maybe one actually resting on that squiggle there. And then we could bring in our sentiment. And do we do a triplicated sentiment? We do 3 in the same place. If this one came down further, we could have 3 in a row like that, which is usually how I like to add them. I think I like that, actually. Okay, so let's stick down our butterflies where they are, and just putting glue on the bodies so that the wings can stay 3-dimensional. And this one's sort of overlapping the edge of the film strip, and then this one is attaching itself to the edge of that swirl just there, I think, like so. And then I do want to use foam tape on these sentiments, but because they're already resting on that bit there, I think I can get away with a really low profile foam tape, just putting a little bit on the ends of these sentiments and then using glue on the rest of them. So if we flip that over and put a little bit of foam tape on the end, I think we'll get away with that being all we need, really. Just to balance it, yeah, that works nicely. So we can add these on take off the foam tape and then just put a tiny dot of glue on the other end. Push that one in a little bit more, just so that they're not all totally above and below each other. I think it looks nice when they're a bit staggered. Okay, so we've now got that, and then I'm thinking to finish this off, a few iridescent sequins will just give a little bit of shine to this, and maybe I do still have some of the other squiggles. Do we think it needs any more? Do we think it needs another squiggle? Because then it would kind of look like they're completely continuing on and off the card. We could do that one. Off to the side. I'm not sure, do we feel like it needs another squiggle? I feel like it's a bit empty up there. Yeah, I think another one would look nice coming off the top of the card there. So let's add some adhesive onto this. And then place that up there. And we can turn that round and trim off the excess. We could even see if we feel like that piece would fit nicely there. Or over here. No, I don't think it needs it over there. But possibly... maybe it doesn't need anything down there. I feel like that, it needed that piece up there. So let's have a look at sequins now. You could definitely go with Arden's enamel dots because they're absolutely beautiful, but I feel like we need a little bit of sparkle on this card, especially if it's for a friend as well. So I like to use 3 different sizes of iridescent round cup sequins when I'm placing them on my cards. So I think I'm just going to take a few and kind of tuck them in places so we can just get that little bit of shine. So I'm going to go 3 large ones. Probably go with 3 of each size if I've picked out 3 large ones, and we can do a medium one on top of the butterfly is a nice way of using them. One there, one here, and then we do 3 small ones as well. And maybe we could do 1 small one coming up the top of the card there. We can do 1 coming right down into this corner, which kind of negates the need to put another squiggle there. And then I think this one could maybe be coming out from underneath that sentiment. I think that would look quite nice. So let's stick all of these into position. So there we have the finished card, and all we need to do now is add that onto a card blank, and then we've got a beautiful, lovely, cheerful, swirly, beautiful, gorgeous tones of pink kind of card to send to a friend, just to cheer them up for no particular reason at all. But really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one. Bye!